Hey guys, I'm not somebody who needs school, because all the knowledge I need is on TV. Who needs professional teachers teaching me things when I can just rewatch old episodes of Jeopardy? One of the topics I used to be really into when I was younger that I never really got the chance to talk about is game shows. You know what a game show is, a bunch of random people you never heard of come together to play a game on a show. So a game show. There's normally money or some other prize involved that the contestants are trying to win, but the audience at home aren't going for that. They're just watching to prove that they're smarter than the random people that they see on TV. I've had a lot of chances in my life to talk about video games or movies I like, but there was never really a chance about game shows without feeling like an 80-year-old. But watching TV with my grandmother is part of why I got into game shows. It's kind of hard to not watch a lot of Family Feud when that's a good percentage of what somebody you live with watches, besides things like Judge Judy or Kitchen Nightmares. I am sort of thankful that I did end up enjoying the game shows that she watched, and to be fair, if I didn't, I probably wouldn't be making this video to talk about them. Anyways, let's finally talk about what was playing on my TV when I didn't claim the TV to play my Wii: game shows! I think there's no better place to start than with Wheel of Fortune, which was my favorite game show growing up. I assume most people watching know what Wheel of Fortune is. 3 contestants spin a wheel with a bunch of random money amounts, they guess a letter in a word puzzle, and if the letter they guess is in the puzzle, it's added to the board. They keep doing this until one of the players guesses the full puzzle, which could be things like a person name, phrase, or a title. It's basically the game Hangman if you add gambling elements. So the only exciting type of Hangman. I used to love this show because I was a nerd who loved spelling, so you tell me there's an entire game show about it, I'm sold! Now I know I haven't made Wheel of Fortune sound interesting. That's it, that's the end of the sentence. Honestly, despite me loving the show, it isn't that super interesting or complex, honestly. It's fun to play along at home, which is one of the major appeals of many game shows. And speaking along at home, I remember when I was younger, one of my favorite video games that I owned was the Wheel of Fortune game for the Wii. Yeah, on the same console that had games like Super Mario Galaxy and Super Smash Bros. Brawl, both of which I did own and play a ton of. Wheel of Fortune still snuck its way to being one of my favorites despite that. I was a very sheltered child growing up. Also, for some reason my Roku TV has a Wheel of Fortune game on it. I don't know why it does, but it sure does. But yeah, Wheel of Fortune is one of my favorite game shows, but not because of the game itself being complex or interesting, but because of nostalgia and me being a piece of garbage. Also, before I move on, a rant that only losers like me will care for, I found out that Pat Sajak, the original Wheel of Fortune host, isn't hosting anymore. Why? Vanna White, who was the other host of the game, is still on the show, but who is this guy? His name is Ryan Seacrest, and I'm sure you're a great guy, Ryan, but you'll never be Pat Sajak. Yeah, I'm not over Steve leaving for college either. Now on to the other show I always associate with game shows, Jeopardy! I always associate Jeopardy with Wheel of Fortune and vice versa, mainly because these are the 2 game shows I mainly watched when I was younger. I don't think I need to explain what Jeopardy is to anybody. We all know Jeopardy, and the only reason you shouldn't know what Jeopardy is if you never went around a TV set and you were locked upside down in a basement with no connection to the outside world your entire life. Jeopardy is one of the most basic quiz shows you could ever possibly ask for. That's what the questions are reversed. The questions are answers and your answers are questions, which is why the contestants always say who is and what is. Yes, this matters to me, it makes sense. I said I didn't need to explain Jeopardy, that's all you're getting. But my opinions on the show? Pretty good. It just makes me feel stupid because in one episode alone, the categories could go from dog breeds to information you need 3 college degrees in order to get one of the clues. This is why me and my family have gotten more into pop culture Jeopardy, because it's so much easier to answer a question about something like Animal Crossing or The Wizard of Oz than it is to get the number of molecules on Leonard Nimoy's butt. I gotta feel smart somehow, so if I can't answer something important like climate change or government, I will answer something stupid about horror movies. Shout out to the theme of the show, you know the one. Even if you haven't seen an episode of the show, you should know this theme. And even though it's the second best song about Jeopardy, it's still a great theme. I also want to give a shout out to Alex Trebek, who used to be the host of the show. I don't even have a joke, he was actually really fun on the show. Rest in peace, Alex. But still, despite me being stupid, I still really enjoy Jeopardy. Just gotta go finish my 3rd semester at college for me to get a couple of the questions on the show correct. Right after talking about Jeopardy, I should talk about the other quiz show all about money. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I don't think I need to explain this show either. Come on, who doesn't know about this show? Who doesn't this name apply to? But still, if Jeopardy was a standard quiz show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire is the most traditional quiz show you could ever possibly make. I mean, it's literally somebody asking the contestant a bunch of multiple choice questions. If that isn't a quiz show, I don't know what is. The part where the show gets sort of interesting is probably the most iconic part of the show, with the lifelines. which are things that help the contestant answer the questions correctly. The player gets 3 different lifelines in the game. The first is to ask the audience a question, which is something I try doing all the time, but I fail to commit to most of the time. The second is to phone a friend, which would never work for me because most of my friends and family members will probably be too busy playing Fortnite or something to help me. And the final one is to leave 2 answers left, which always gets me stressed because of how imagining only having 2 answers left and still getting the answer wrong. I also don't like celebrities being on this show because you guys are already rich enough. Stop trying to steal my potential spot on this show. Why are people like Drew Carey on this show? Now I'm just upset that this is the show with Drew Carey on it that I talked about. I wish Whose Line Is It Anyways counted as a game show so I could talk about it in this video. Still, pretty good show. I just don't have much to say about it really. Now on to arguably the most famous game show at the moment, Family Feud. Another game show I don't think I need to explain, but I still will. Family Feud is a show where 2 families feud, never would have guessed, over a survey where they have to try to guess what the top 10 or so most popular answers for said survey. Both families do this until all of the answers on the board are guessed. It's really fun yet upsetting because you could tell how dumb the people who answer these surveys are. The survey could be asking for best animals found in the forest, and somebody answering the survey would still say something stupid like a penguin. And Family Feud is made even better because of the host. No, I don't mean the first 4, I mean the one that people actually care for. Steve Harvey is the one that makes Family Feud what it is, in the same way that Pat Sajak made Wheel of Fortune and Alex Trebek made Jeopardy. I mean, I think there's a reason that the main thing people talk about with Family Feud are the moments where Steve Harvey gives a giant reaction and such. And yeah, Steve Harvey's what gives Family Feud flavor. And no, I'm not just saying that because of all the images of burgers that look just like him. I honestly keep forgetting that Steve wasn't always the host and that Family Feud is old enough to have a game on the Super Nintendo. I also didn't know how successful Steve was outside of Family Feud, because what do you mean he was in films like You Got Served? But before this turns into a giant rant about Steve Harvey's career and all the things that happened in it, let's get back to Family Feud. Family Feud is a pretty alright show, mainly because of Steve Harvey, even if the contestants and the people who answered in the survey are pretty dumb sometimes. I don't need to say I recommend this, you already probably watched it. Next up is the only show in this video I haven't actually seen full episodes of, The Price is Right. You might be wondering why I'm even bothering to mention this show if I've never seen it. That's because of how iconic it is, to the point where I feel like if somebody would get mad at me if I didn't talk about it in this video. I also just want an excuse to play this clip of The Price is Right that features Aaron Paul, or as some of you may know him, Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad.
Aaron, what do you bid on that? $1,200! $1,200!
I will be talking about the new version of the show, which I didn't even realize was a different thing. But this is the famous version of the show, so I'll be sticking with this version. But still, this is a rare game show that has more than one type of game in it. Like with Wheel of Fortune, you really just spin a wheel, while with The Price is Right, you have multiple game modes, which I didn't even know was a thing until I was researching this video. I just thought the game was guessing of prices for random projects like cars and air fryers, but no, you have 4 separate game types. You really get 4 in 1 in this game. It's like those 2-in-1 shampoo conditioners. So let's go through each of the 4 games in this one game. That makes sense saying out loud. First game is exactly what everybody expects and what I mentioned a second ago, with 4 people guessing prices for random things. Next up is what are called pricing games. What are pricing games, you may ask? Well, here's the Wikipedia page of every single pricing game in The Price is Right. Yeah, so maybe I have an excuse to skip talking about pricing games. Let's just talk about Showcase Showdown, which is the next game. Showcase Showdown was an American punk band who was famous for songs like Rip 'Em Off and... wait, sorry, wrong script. I meant, Showcase Showdown is a game where the contestants spin a big wheel and try to get a space that has $1 or less on it. And whoever goes more than $1 automatically loses. You know those big wheel games that you see at arcades and such? Yeah, it's one of those, but think with actual money. This leads into the final game of the show, Showcases. Yeah, they basically just split the last game's name in half for the final game's name. That's cool. But from what I understand, it's basically just the first game again, but at the end of the episode. It's just guessing prices for random products like a grill or plane tickets or something. Nothing new for me to add, but still, for a show I'd never watched, talking about it sure did take a lot of time. And obviously, because I never watched The Price is Right, I can't really have a deep opinion on it, but for the people who have watched it, would you recommend it? I mean, nothing could be better than the Aaron Paul episode unless literally Bryan Cranston goes on to The Price is Right, but still, wondering if I should binge the show or something like that. We'll see. For the final thing I want to talk about in this video, it isn't just one game show, it's an entire network. The Game Show Network, to be exact. I somehow never heard of this directly before working on this video, which I know seems very weird considering the fact that I just ranted for a decent amount of time about game shows. But yeah, somehow I didn't hear about this. But still, you might be wondering how I could be so obsessed with game shows growing up without ever hearing about this literal network that's named after them. It would be like being the biggest fan of cartoons and never hearing of Cartoon Network. That just doesn't happen. But I have a single answer for you. I am dumb. And besides, most of the game shows I watch now are through streaming services and not through a network anyways, which definitely sounds weird saying it out loud. But still, I don't think I need to explain what Game Show Network is. It's literally exactly what it says on the tin. But it's still sort of interesting seeing exactly what this was on a deeper level, because I honestly don't know most of the shows on here before looking up the network, like things like Beat the Bridge or Cash Cab. There's the very famous ones, some of which I even talked about in this video, like Jeopardy and Family Feud. But then they're next to game shows like Person Face, which sounds like a made-up game show for smiling friends or something like that. But still, if you want a place for all your game show needs, you no longer need Game Show Multi-Pack because you have the Game Show Network. They even made Game Show Central, which appears to be a digital streaming equivalent of Central. This has shows like Minute to Win It, which is honestly really cool in a weird way. Is that just me that cares about that? Yeah, it's just me. They also offer flash game versions of their game shows on their website, like this People Puzzler game, which is a weird crossword puzzle game, and this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game, which is just Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I don't know why they have these, I don't know who will be playing these games past the year 2007, but I guess it's cool that these exist. But still, I somehow never knew about the Game Show Network before working on this video. But I would still recommend this network if you love game shows like I do, I guess. So, that's it. Yet again, I am just happy to talk about game shows. Made watching all that Jeopardy worth it. For real, I am pretty happy doing this video because it reminded me I'm not the only one who still actually cares for things like game shows. Wheel of Fortune is one of those things that feels like only I cared for it, but researching this video made me realize I wasn't the only person who unironically liked it. I mean, if nobody else cared, all those compilations of funny game show answers wouldn't exist and get millions of views. But still, thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I know I didn't talk about every game show in existence, there's still shows like The Amazing Race or Beast games, but if you guys want me to talk about more game shows down the line, I'll be down to do that in a sequel video. Just wanted to get the giant ones out of the way at least. But still, I'm off to go to try to be on Family Feud, just gotta find a family first. See you all later, have a great day. Oh crap, I somehow didn't make a reference to the South Park Wheel of Fortune joke. Gotta restart the video now.